Hey there, I'm Pete Townsend, and this is Money Never Sleeps. We look inside the minds of entrepreneurs and at the crossover of startups, enterprise, finance, technology, and life as we know it. Before we get started this week, just a quick heads up that if you're building in Web3, the next class of the Techstars Web3 Accelerator takes place in spring 2024, and applications are open now. As Web3 is global and borderless, so is Techstars Web3. Although most of the accelerator content is delivered virtually, the class does meet up in person for a week at a time at the beginning, middle, and end of the program in different cities around the world. Jump on over to techstars.com/accelerators/web3 to apply. On the show this week, we've got Lou Kerner.
Hi, I'm Lou Kerner, and I'm the founder of the Crypto Oracle Collective, and we are a decentralized advisory firm, and we're also the DAO for Crypto Mondays, which is the largest crypto meetup in the world with active chapters in 54 cities.
In addition to Lou's roles as founder of the Crypto Oracle Collective and Crypto Mondays, he's also a partner at Blockchain Coinvestors, a venture capital fund of funds focused on investing in blockchain since 2014. Lou has a great track record of recognizing emerging trends and doubling down on them, first on Wall Street, then onto media, venture capital, and now in crypto and blockchain. On top of it all, he's an incredibly welcoming and helpful person, and I'm glad we met. In this episode, Lou and I dive into his early career in traditional investing and community building and uncover what it was that he saw with his big crypto revelation in 2017, porting over his community building experiences into crypto and blockchain, and what he would like to see more founders in Web3 focus on. All right here on Money Never Sleeps. So listen, as we mentioned before going on air today, Lou, you have been doing a lot of traveling. You do a lot of traveling. And I know that one of your big trips recently was to Token 2049 in Singapore last month. What do you think is your most meaningful takeaway from that trip?
Well, undoubtedly, for me, the biggest takeaway is that while in the US, the government is really trying to kill crypto, crypto is not only alive outside of the United States, it's thriving. There was, I think, more business done at Token 2049 than any other conference in the world. To me, it's really one of the three major conferences. It shouldn't be missed. Token 2049, ETH Denver, which is the mecca for devs, and crypto, and Paris Blockchain Week, which is the most amazing ecosystem, I think, France, where the major companies come out and are really a part of the ecosystem.
Definitely. And how do you navigate those big conferences? It's always something, right? And that I've said, you got to go in with a plan and know who you're meeting with. Otherwise, you could just get lost and wandering around or have things set up in advance. How do you do it?
Yeah, I agree. I think when I have the time, which I forced myself to before Token 2049, because there were so many amazing people there, I just go through the list of people who I think are going to be there, who I really want to catch up with. And I spend a lot of time setting up meetings, deciding which side events you want to go to. And obviously, just getting invited to the side events can be a lot of work. But I think that the ROI on that time is really high.
Definitely. That's what I'm looking to do, and just get to those side events, because you'll get into more of those niche discussions that you won't if you're just wandering around a huge event venue for a couple of days.
Exactly.
Right? So,
and it was Token 2049. It's a massive venue. It's just walk at the Marina Bay Sands Conference Center. I think the Marina Bay Sands is the nicest hotel in the world.
Nice. I saw some of the pictures. You look like you were definitely enjoying yourself there.
Yeah, well, they have this crazy rooftop infinity pool.
The swimming pool, yeah. Yeah, deadly. Love it. But listen, let's take a step back, right, to what we would call your formative years. And that there was a view of the world that you had back then in kind of the first probably 10, 15 years of your career, and that maybe just walk us through that.
Sure. So I think when I look back on it now, it certainly wasn't what I felt then. But yeah, I think that I feel now that I was really raised in a culture of greed. And I was taught that the more I took for myself, the better. And that was certainly, I think, the mindset that I had at that time. And that made a lot of sense to me. I liked stuff and I was pretty good at taking it. A seminal movie while I was growing up was Wall Street. And the famous tagline from that is greed is good. And I think that was the mindset I was in for the majority of my life, actually, until really I saw crypto.
Yeah. And that's how this podcast got its name, Money Never Sleeps. The line where Gordon Gekko is on the beach And Bud Fox says, Gordon, Gordon, you're up early. And Gordon Gekko says back to him, money never sleeps, pal.
I like that. That's funny that I would bring up Gordon Gekko.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking back to some of those earlier experiences as well, Lou, I found a link to this Business Insider page with a bio of you that was from maybe 12 to 15 years ago. And it refers to you as the founder of the second internet fund, right? Were you actually thinking about as being in the second stage of the internet at that time?
What the second internet fund was I had earlier in my career, I'd run the world's largest social network, Bolt. I was the first person to call Zuckerberg and offer to buy Facebook a month after he launched the company. And fast forward, that was 2005. Fast forward 2009. Late 2009, I was offered some shares in Facebook. It was kind of actively traded at 16 billion. And I thought for a moment, I'm probably the smartest guy in the world to actually know what this is worth. I'd been a Wall Street analyst for the first third of my career. And then I'd run the world's largest social network, and it was actively traded 16 billion. I ran the numbers and was shocked to find it was worth 50 billion. And so I bought as much as I could, and I decided to scream from the mountaintops and actually write my first Wall Street style research report in more than 10 years. And I opened up a Tumblr account. It's still up on Tumblr. I published in March of 2010. My 2014 revenue estimate was off by less than 1%. And it went viral. And the idea of the second internet fund was to open up a fund focused on secondary shares in private companies like Facebook, like LinkedIn, like Twitter, that were starting to be actively traded during that time.
That makes sense. And fast forwarding to this magical date of June 29th, 2017, right? Which is when you saw the crypto light. What was it exactly that you saw?
I had gone down the rabbit hole, 13, 14. I joked deep enough that the Wall Street Journal had written a story on Bitcoin, quoted me as Wall Street's Bitcoin expert. And while I was looking at it for a year, I did not see it. The price was going down the whole time. I think it's harder to see when the price is going down. And then on June 29th, 2017, I held a conference call with 4 crypto thought leaders because ICOs were going crazy. And I didn't really understand what they were and what was going on. And one of the people that I invited was Olaf Carlson Wee, who's a young VC, really an epic one. And Olaf said something. And I now had I now know is referred to as Gestalt shift, where one moment you see the world as one thing, you get a new piece of information, and then the world is something completely different. And what I saw when I saw the crypto light was, for the first time in history, we had a tool set to solve for the community instead of the man in the middle who generally solves for himself. And I thought that had the potential to be the biggest thing to happen in the history of humanity.
You're right. I strongly believe it is, myself as well, in that I saw the light would have been in 2014, and it was on the second page of the Bitcoin white paper. And wow. It took me a couple of years to get out, but I saw, and I think you'd get this, Lou, is that I saw this panacea to this frustration that I had been feeling for a number of years when it came to financial market plumbing. And that there was just so many experiences that I went through where I'm like, this just is ridiculous. That is the way that things still operate. And when I saw page 2 of the Bitcoin white paper, I'm like, if this can happen this way, if Bitcoin runs this way, then imagine what we can do for the financial markets. Now, that's obviously can open up a big can of worms, because it's depending upon the asset class, it's going to be more efficient or less efficient, right? So
sure.
You may look at that at the financial markets and say equity markets don't really need this. But when you look at the fixed income markets, you're thinking, you know what, there's a lot of inefficiencies there. There's a lot of paper, a lot of lack of automation, and things can be done differently, right?
I think when people see it, I think it's infinite. And I think everybody sees something different based upon their unique history. For me, the other seminal thing that happened about 2 months before I saw the crypto light is my now ex-wife served me for divorce. And that wasn't upsetting because, I was aware that we had an unhappy marriage. But what was eye-opening was the fact that she did something that a lot of women do if their husband makes a few bucks, is they accuse them of fraud. They hire a high-priced lawyer, accuse the husband of fraud, and tie up all of the assets. So one day I woke up after having worked for more than 30 years and having had a pretty successful career, and I woke up penniless. The government had seized all my assets. I hadn't done anything wrong. And that was made me aware that effectively that my money wasn't my money. And I think when that happens to a lot of people, they try and solve for it. And if you try and solve for that, pretty quickly you end up at Bitcoin. And if I think back in the 6.5 years I've been 24/7 crypto and think about kind of the biggest single event that happened that I said, this is going to move the price of Bitcoin. That was when SVB went under. And you had hundreds of thousands of really wealthy people in the Bay Area and around the world who had then for a short period that same experience that I had, which was, oh my God, my money isn't my money. And I think a number of them found their way to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was up literally 50% in the next number of months.
Yeah, no, it does. It comes at different points in time for different people from these different experiences. One of the things that you and I talked about as well, Lou, when we first chatted a couple months back was communities. And you've talked about your past in terms of building communities. How do you think that your experience with building communities helped you to think about the impact that you wanted to have in crypto and where you thought this was all going to go?
Sure. So, I mean, I feel incredibly fortunate that I'd had this experience running Bolt. And Bolt was, again, the largest social network in the world before MySpace. We peaked in 2006 at 23 million kids. And I learned a lot of very foundational things about community. Most notably, I learned about what community even means to me. And to me, a community is an ecosystem where when it works, everyone gets more out of it than they give. And who doesn't want to be a part of that? I came to some other foundational belief through that experience. I believe that you're either growing the engagement of your community or your community is dying. You know, I had one really major corollary to my definition, and that's that a community can scale highly correlated to what I call value delta. So in other words, a community manufactures something for community members at a cost of X. Community members get it and they value it at Y. And the bigger the difference between X and Y, the bigger the community can become. And that's why if you think about it, the biggest communities in the world are the things with the biggest value deltas. And we have a collective name for those things. We call those things religions. And that's why they've scaled to billions of people and lasted thousands of years, because they're really the world's greatest communities because they give the most value delta.
With your role having been, I think, as one of the core co-founders of Blockchain Coinvestors?
There were two co-founders, a husband and wife that I went to business school with. Yeah, Matthew Lamerle and Allison Davis.
Yeah, I had Matthew on this podcast about 4 years ago. So he and I had a good chat. I actually met him once in London. And the whole community ethos around Crypto Mondays, around Crypto Oracle Collective, with Blockchain Co-Investors, the community around that, do those things intersect?
Not that much. I've had Matthew as a guest at multiple Crypto Mondays around the world. I think the last time was Crypto Monday Lisbon, which is a great chapter. Blockchain Co-Investors it's a company. It's a fund to fund. We also have a crypto SPAC that I'm CEO of. We actually went public when I was at Breakpoint in 2021. So that was an exciting time. I was there for the whole internet thing. I was the first analyst at a bulge bracket to pick up America Online in 1995. And to me, this is like just the next new technology, just like the internet at one point was the new technology. And if I went back to 95 and I knew that the internet was going to go up and to the right for 30 years, but I didn't know what the Googles and Facebooks were going to be, what would I do? And I think the right strategy, what I would do is I would start a fund to fund, which is basically Blockchain Co-Investors is now invested in 43 of the leading crypto VCs around the world. And what we're really solving for is we want to be in the seed round of every blockchain unicorn.
Yep.
And largely that means we want to own almost everything. I think today through the 43 VCs that we're LPs in, we're directly or indirectly, because sometimes we do make some direct investments, investors in more than 900 projects.
Interesting. I was just listening to another podcast this morning, The Full Ratchet, which is Nick Moran, and he was talking about allocators, right? And a fund to fund that's an allocator to other funds. And he was saying something to the effect of, if you get one wrong, it can cost the fund a lot, and that you are thinking about investing as a fund of funds in a much different way than you would if you're direct investing as a VC, because the VC model that out of every 30 investments, 10 fail, 10 get your money back, maybe if you're lucky, and then the other 10 is where you make your money. But when you're doing fund of fund investing, it's a different mentality altogether, isn't it?
Yeah, again, I think what we're looking for obviously are smart, hardworking, honest, insightful people, investors who have different viewpoints and are looking for different things, different geographies. Right? The idea is this is a global phenomena. I think the last VC that we added to the roster was out of Israel originally, and obviously that's a huge ecosystem we didn't have as much exposure to as we should have.
I hear you. Makes sense. And then with the Crypto Mondays and the Crypto Oracle Collective, you want to just talk a little bit about the mission of those communities?
Sure. Crypto Mondays was a meetup that I started in New York on January 2018, which is a meaningful day because I was literally the peak market cap for 2 years. We're actually celebrating crypto winter. And I had been a long time meetup shareholders. I'd started other meetups. I'd never had 300 people at a meetup before, which is how many people showed up to the first one. And the following week, we had the second one, and we had 350 people at the second one and 3 TV crews. And that's when it decided to blow it out around the world, but decentralized. I mean, we were having such an amazing time in New York, and I was meeting such amazing people. When I started off, I just started off just as total networking. I purposefully didn't have any speakers because most of the time I'm at a meetup and somebody is speaking, I really wish they'd stop speaking because there's so many awesome people there and them not so much. But what I found was that if you had speakers at some of the other chapters that had speakers were getting more people than New York was because people just feel more comfortable coming if there's a speaker. And in New York, we do fireside chats just for 30 minutes, 20 minutes of Q&A from whoever's moderating it, 10 minutes from the audience, but we keep the vast majority of time for the networking. And that's really the purpose. In 2019, we started something called Crypto Commons, which was a crypto shared workspace. Because I thought if getting together 3 hours a week is so awesome, let's office all together. And unfortunately, that did not make it through crypto winter. And then the next iteration of that, it wasn't mine, but I was an investor in the Empire DAO in New York, which was awesome. A 6-story crypto shared workspace. But again, that didn't make it through this crypto winter. But I just think the idea of Crypto Mondays is just simply for people to get together. The more people in the industry get together, this is really about community. The more people they know, the more knowledge they get. The talks are supposed to be educational. We have a no shilling policy. Certainly, we want it to be helpful to the people who are there working, but it's not about, hey, come buy my tokens.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the more of that we have of the community building and people getting together, the better. I was just talking with my investment principal, Hugh McGurr, about this the other day, that we just got to get out of the house. There's so much of what we can do that is this way, right? Over a video. But when you get out there and you get to see the whites of somebody's eyes and you get to have that engaging chat with somebody that you just met, and you wouldn't find yourself in that situation ordinarily. When you could do that where you know that people that are interested in crypto are going to be there as well, that's obviously even better.
Yeah, exactly. I was on a call with a company out of China recently, and I asked the guy where he met his co-founder. And he said, this guy didn't know me very well. He said, well, there's something in Shanghai called Crypto Monday Shanghai.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's exactly. So mission accomplished.
Yeah. Then the Crypto Oracle Collective, I know that you're doing 3 calls a week there, and thank you for inviting me on to talk about Techstars Web3. Had a good chat with some of the community members about what's going on with the accelerator program. Can you talk a little bit about the approach there?
Sure. Again, because I travel all around the world so much and see communities all over the place. And I was really meeting all of these amazing people who wanted to work in Web3 and all of these amazing projects who want to hire great people. But the disconnect was that a lot of the projects want to pay in illiquid tokens or equity, and most people have rent to pay and get hungry. The idea was to start a decentralized Web3 advisory firm and set up a token economics that the collective can get paid in illiquid tokens and equity. We can take those, put it into our treasury, and mint liquid collective tokens, and that represent governance right over this ever-growing treasury, which really represents an increasingly diversified holding of crypto assets. And so, as you were saying before, as an investor, what you're really going for, again, are those unicorns. That's where the very significant majority of all the money gets made, is in the few massive winners. And so the great thing about the collective is, instead now of people working for one project or two projects getting tokens in those, they can get this ever increasing basket. And so I think for the vast majority of people who work, they'll do much better economically getting that basket than getting the one or two tokens that they would have otherwise have gotten. And they don't need to sell it, but if they hold it, then they participate in the appreciation of the assets. One way to look at us is we're like a crypto VC, but instead of putting money in, we're putting in our time.
Yeah, I've seen this interesting company recently, and they're trying to get accelerators to have the participants co-invest in each other. And so they're setting up these investment agreements that says, all right, you get 12 companies in an accelerator. Founders can elect to opt in to a small holding in each of the cohorts companies as a way to create those tighter binds. Being part of a cohort should be the best support group of your life if you run the program the right way.
Sure. That's been tried multiple times before. The last significant effort I heard about that was in 500 startups had their 21st S21, I think is what it was called. I think it was crypto related, and that a bunch of them got together, tokenized it. And the struggle for those has largely been, to some degree, that everybody thinks that their baby's the prettiest.
Yeah, I know. But it was an interesting one.
I think economically, again, just looking at it from purely economics, and also now once you start getting, obviously ownership in other people's companies, now you're incented to, provide value to that company.
Yeah. I know someone else who's experimenting with like a cohort token to own the whole thing. Basically raise money via a token that represents that one accelerator program for that class, and then allocate it pro rata out to everybody.
I think that's what we're going to do, the collective. So by the way, so the collective started last July with 24 Web3 experts, and we're now over 200. We have 11 clients, and we're adding new clients, from small clients and startups to AWS as a client.
Absolutely. No, that's great. It's great to get them in. Just expanding out a bit further, Lou, with a view that you have on the crypto and blockchain space, what would you like to see founders do more of?
So, I think personally, I always joke that I think that the most important word in the English language is balance. And I don't think you can ever get balance right. So I think more about where I want to be out of balance. One of the places I want to be out of balance is I want to make too many mistakes. I think that the vast majority of people massively overestimate the cost of making mistakes, and they're scared of making mistakes. And I think mistakes is how you do your best learning, is when you make mistakes and you learn what not to do. And I wish that, I think more founders could benefit by making more mistakes.
Mistakes are, it's interesting. Someone said yesterday that in the US, failures are not celebrated, they're tolerated. Thank you. Great chat. Awesome to be part of this ecosystem now with the Crypto Oracle Collective. Really enjoying the community and the folks that I've been able to engage with through this. So thank you for bringing me in.
I appreciate that. And certainly I've enjoyed being a part of the Techstars ecosystem as well.
Thank you, Lou.
Okay, terrific, Pete. Awesome.
Talk soon. That does it for this week, folks. Thanks to Lou Kerner for opening up his mind to help us figure out why he does what he does. You can learn more about Lou Kerner, Crypto Oracle Collective, Crypto Mondays, and Blockchain Coinvestors on our website, moneyneversleeps.ie. If you like what you heard, please leave us a rating and or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as it helps others to find the show. Thanks to Conan Brophy from Create Sound for mixing and editing this episode. Conan is an excellent media man to get in touch with when you're thinking about launching your own podcast. As for me, I'm an early-stage startup investor focused on where fintech meets crypto and crypto meets Web3, and I lead the Techstars Web3 Accelerator. Applications for our 2024 class are open now, so hop on over to techstars.com/accelerator/Web3 to apply. Also, there are plenty of links in the show notes on moneyneversleeps.ie on how to get in touch, so don't hesitate to reach out. Finally, till next time, thanks for listening. See ya! Money never sleeps.